Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and smooth her arms out a little bit. So I'm going to Alt-tap her arms, go into solo mode here. And if we go into Polyframe, you're going to see when we did the Dynamesh, it actually gave us a polygroup for this, which is good. So I'm going to hold down Control-Shift, isolate that. You know what? Let's hold down Control-Shift. Let's do hold down W, or just tap W and hold down Control and tap, and that'll go ahead and mask this for us. And then we'll hold down, we'll do a little transpose modeling. Hold down Control-Shift and grab this middle one. That'll give us an edge ring. So we can kind of pull this in a little bit, Control-Drag. And now let's go to our deformation menu and do a polish by features with open circle and just tap it, and that'll go ahead and polish this down just a tad. So now we can go in here, hold down Shift and kind of smooth out some of this. If we really want to polish this line, we can Control Shift isolate it and then just do polish by features and just keep polishing that down. And let's go ahead and Z remesh this really quickly. So I'm going to go back up to my geometry menu. We're going to go to Z remesher. We'll keep groups turned on, adaptive size down to 0, and we'll give it a target polygon count of like 1. Hit Z remesh, and that'll keep us nice and smooth. That looks fine. We can try doing maybe a half, even better. And if we want to, hold down Control Shift, isolate that, Control Shift drag to invert that, do a quick delete hidden, geometry modify topology delete hidden, hover over an edge, do a close convex hole. And there we go. Hold down Control Shift, hit Control W, and now we've got this. We can, of course, go back into solo mode. We can do a crease polygroup, which will be under geometry crease PG. And then if we hit D to turn on our dynamic, we have a nice creased line around there. We've got nice smooth arms that we can then go in here. We can use inflate, or we can just use our move brush and kind of move her arms a little bit more back into place. Okay, so we've got nice subdivided arms here. Any sort of undulations you see in your geometry, you can actually go in here. If you have D, Shift D, so we have D activated. I'm going to go in my H polish brush, BH, and then just manually kind of polish down some of these areas that are giving us a little bit of trouble. And I can hold down Alt. And this one I might fix to kind of give us a little bit of a harsher transition down the middle. I kind of don't mind the softer transition, but in the reference it kind of does go down, to a point. So I can actually add an edge loop in here and crease it if I want to make that transition a little bit harder. But we'll see if that's what we want. So we've got this going. For her tails down here, I'm going to go into my move brush with AccuCurve turned on, turn on Polyframe. I'm just going to grab these points and just pull them down. Actually, hit Shift D. And since they already kind of come down to points that I like, it looks like I missed one. I'm going to go into solo mode here, hover over this bottom edge, and then do a crease edge, and just select that edge. And now when we hit D, it'll be nice and hard transition. And then we got nice and clean. So last thing to clean up is her head here. So I'm going to go into polyframe mode and go into solo mode. And we've already given her a little bit of thickness, but let's go ahead and we'll turn her polypaint off temporarily. What I'm going to do is go ahead and just slice this so she just gets a nice open edge here. So I'm going to hold down Control Shift, and we'll do slice curve, and I'm going to start dragging my slice curve here, and then when it gets to a bend, I'm going to tap Alt once, and that'll give me a nice soft transition. As soon as I get to another bend, I'm going to tap Alt one more time, and then Alt again, and that'll give me a nice Bezier curve. So now when I hit Polyframe back on, I've got this piece up here, which is a polygroup, and then this piece down here. I'm going to hold down Control Shift, go to my select rectangle, and just isolate this. Go ahead and do a delete hidden, geometry modify topology delete hidden. And if we want to, since we sliced, we don't have to polish these edges. They're already nice and smooth. So let's just go ahead and Z remesh this thing. Again, we have X symmetry turned on. So I'm going to go to geometry, Z remesh. We're going to do the same old stuff. Adaptive size down to 0. Target polygon count of like 2. And we don't have any borders to keep, so we'll just do that. I'm going to do half. And one more time. Okay. Nice smooth geometry. If we need to clean up this neckline a little bit, we can just go in here manually with our move brush and just kind of move these polygons around. And if we want to, we could even crease these edge loops. Now we don't have a polygroup, so we can't do that polygroup crease thing. But what we can do is go into our Z modeler brush, hover over an edge, and do a crease edge loop complete. We can crease this edge, we can crease this edge. If we want to see what it looks like creased, just hit D. That'll give us a little preview, and then you can go through here and kind of manually move these things around. This looks pretty good. Let's move these up just a tad. And if you want more resolution where the neck is for any reason, hit Shift D, hover over an edge, go again to Insert Single. You could do Insert Multiple if you want, but I'm just going to manually insert a couple single edge loops here. And again, I'm always working in the round in 3D just to kind of make sure all this stuff is nice. And you know what, one thing I'm going to do is when I hit D and see this, see how it's kind of pulling and kind of pinching in a weird way here? What I'm going to do is hit Shift D. I'm going to go hover over that edge and do a bevel edge loop complete, and I'm just going to add a bevel around this area here. And then I'm going to go into W, or my move brush, sorry, and just kind of move these out just to give it a little bit of breathing room here. There we go. And now if I hit D, that'll kind of ease that transition. And if I want to tighten that transition, instead of going in here and creasing, what I can do, I'll go ahead and hit D to give you a preview, and then I hover over an edge and do an Insert Single Edge Loop. And now if I insert an edge loop, it'll actually kind of crease for me just because I'm inserting an edge loop and making those vertices average a little bit tighter. So you can do that instead of creasing. And if there's any other weird pinching, we can just go in here and just kind of move these things around. But that's pretty good. And you know what? I'm actually going to smooth this transition here. This crease is just a little bit harsh, so I'm going to hover over this, and instead of doing a crease, I'm going to do a bevel. I'm going to pull just a slight bevel in there. There we go. And if those are too tight, just hover over, turn on polyframe again, hover over one of those edges and do slide, edge loop complete, and you can just slide this entire edge loop to kind of ease that transition a little bit.